When the face of your franchise stops believing, it's not just frustration anymore. It's a warning. Something inside the Cleveland Browns is cracking, and everyone can feel it. The sideline outbursts, the icy interviews, the tension you can see but can't quite explain. It all points to one truth the organization doesn't want you to notice. This team isn't just struggling on the field, it's falling apart from the inside out. Miles Garrett has always been the heartbeat of Cleveland. Intense, loyal, driven. But lately his energy feels different. Not angry at a missed tackle or a bad call. Deeper than that. It's the look of a player who's lost faith in the people calling the shots. And when your star defender, your captain, starts questioning leadership, the message is clear. Something's rotten at the top. And it all started with one decision. A quarterback switch that didn't just bench a player, it ignited a storm. A choice that left Shedeur Sanders, one of the most promising young QBs in the league, on the sidelines, and raised questions that no one in the organization seems willing to answer. Because according to the official story, Shedeur's hurt. But according to what players are whispering behind closed doors, that might not be the full truth. So how did a team built for the playoffs end up drowning in confusion, lies, and silence? And who inside the building is quietly trying to fix it before it's too late? Let's talk about it. Miles Garrett's frustration isn't subtle anymore. It's visible in every snap, every glare, every word he doesn't say. You can see it on the sidelines, the jaw clenched, the eyes distant, the hands on his hips as if he's holding himself from saying what everyone already knows. The man who used to be the emotional anchor of the Browns now looks like someone watching their house burn down while the people inside pretend everything's fine. After games, his interviews have become quiet explosions. No yelling, no theatrics, just that calm, measured tone that says more than shouting ever could. When Garrett says, "We've got to look at ourselves and be honest," he isn't talking about players missing assignments. He's talking about leadership lying to them. He's talking about accountability that's gone missing. Inside the locker room, players are starting to echo the same unspoken message. The energy feels off. The smiles are forced. The trust, once the heartbeat of this team, is slipping through the cracks. And it's not just about losing games. It's about feeling like the people running the show aren't telling the full story. Garrett's frustration has become the symbol of something bigger, a quiet rebellion taking shape. Because when your best players start showing the world that he's fed up, it's not just emotion. It's a message to management, to the coaches, to anyone still pretending this team is united. And behind that message is one uncomfortable truth the Browns can't hide much longer. This tension didn't come out of nowhere. It started with a lie, a decision that changed everything. But before we get there, let's rewind to the moment that flipped this entire season upside down. Every collapse starts with one moment, one decision that shifts everything. For the Cleveland Browns, that moment came wrapped in a simple headline: Shedeur Sanders listed as injured.
At first, it seemed routine. Players get hurt, it's football. But then the footage surfaced. Shedeur on the field, helmet on, throwing bullets in warm-ups. No limp, no hesitation, no sign of someone who's supposed to be sidelined. He looked ready, not recovering. And that's when the whispers started. According to reports around the league, the so-called injury might have been more strategic than medical. Sources close to the team suggest it wasn't about protecting Sanders' health, it was about protecting a narrative. Because benching your future star for performance reasons looks bad. But benching him for health and safety, that buys time. That keeps the questions quiet, at least for a little while. But players talk. And when the people in that locker room saw Shedeur moving like nothing was wrong, they started asking the same thing fans were asking. Why isn't he starting? And more importantly, why are we being told something that clearly isn't true? It's one thing to make a bad coaching call. It's another to manipulate an injury report to cover it up. If these claims are true, and again, reports only suggest, that's not just poor leadership, that's deception. And deception spreads fast in a locker room. You could feel it. The tension wasn't about who was under center anymore. It was about trust. Because if a head coach is willing to mislead his own players just to keep control of a situation, what else is he willing to hide? From that moment on, everything changed. The team wasn't divided over wins and losses. It was divided over truth and lies. And right in the middle of that growing storm, one man decided he wasn't going to sit quietly anymore. Because while the head coach was burying a quarterback, someone else was quietly trying to bring him back to life. Every organization reaches a breaking point, that moment when silence becomes complicity. And for the Browns, that silence finally snapped behind closed doors. Because while the world thought Shedeur Sanders was hurt, one man inside the building knew better and decided he wasn't going to play along. That man was Tommy Rees, the Browns' offensive coordinator. To most fans, he's a quiet presence, the guy calling plays from the booth, not making headlines. But inside that facility, Rees has become something else entirely, the voice of reason in a room full of denial. Reports from team insiders suggest Rees wasn't comfortable with how things were being handled. While the official story painted Shedeur as unavailable, Rees was still meeting with him, studying film, running drills, keeping him ready. No cameras, no interviews, just quiet work in the shadows. It wasn't rebellion for the sake of ego. It was rebellion for the sake of football. And make no mistake, everyone noticed. The players saw it. The assistants saw it. Even Stefanski saw it. Because when your offensive coordinator starts coaching the injured quarterback like he's still the starter, that's not just defiance, that's defiance with purpose. Behind the scenes, Rees became what every struggling team secretly needs, a stabilizer. While others played politics, he built preparation. While the narrative focused on injuries and excuses, he focused on solutions. And the contrast couldn't be clearer. One man hiding behind press conferences, the other quietly building a quarterback ready to prove everyone wrong. Players started gravitating toward Rees. In team meetings, on practice fields, in casual conversations, his influence grew. Not because he was louder, but because he was real. In a culture drowning in confusion, Rees spoke the only language that mattered: accountability. And that's what makes this story so explosive. It's not about a coach losing control. It's about another one quietly taking it. The Browns' supposed hierarchy is shifting, and the locker room feels it. Because here's the truth. When players stop believing in the head coach and start believing in his assistant, it's no longer a team. It's a power struggle. And as whispers of Rees's quiet defiance spread, one question started echoing through the halls of Berea. Who's really leading this team? But while Rees was building something steady behind the scenes, on the field, the frustration was reaching a boiling point, one that cameras could no longer hide. You can feel it before you even see it. The locker room that once echoed with laughter and music after big wins now hums with silence, a tense, heavy kind of quiet that no one wants to acknowledge. Guys walk past each other without words. The energy's off. Not angry, not defeated, just done. And that's the most dangerous kind of locker room. Not one that's loud, but one that's stopped believing. Miles Garrett's body language says it all. He's not yelling. He's not pointing fingers. He's just detached. When one of your most passionate leaders goes quiet, that's not calm. That's surrender. Players see it, coaches feel it, and no speech or team meeting can fix that. Behind the scenes, veterans have started voicing what everyone's been thinking. Reports suggest closed-door conversations have turned raw, not about playbooks, but about trust. One player reportedly told a teammate, "How are we supposed to follow a plan if we can't even believe the people running it?" That's not gossip. That's the sound of a team cracking in real time. And this isn't just about Shedeur Sanders anymore. He's the spark, but the fire's everywhere. The defense feels like it's carrying the load, while the offense sinks deeper each week. The offense feels abandoned by leadership, caught in a political game that no one signed up to play. The divide isn't offense versus defense, it's truth versus control. Even practices have changed. The tempo feels forced. The interactions between players and coaches have lost that natural rhythm, replaced by cautious glances, clipped responses, and a growing sense that everyone's walking on eggshells. Because when the head coach loses the locker room, everyone feels it, not through words, but through silence. And yet, in the middle of all that chaos, one pocket of belief still exists. You can see it in the small group staying after practice. Tommy Reese, a few offensive players, and Shedeur Sanders. No spotlight, no cameras, just quiet work. While the rest of the building argues about politics and public perception, they're still focused on the one thing that matters: football. That small group has become the team within the team, the only one still operating with purpose, and players are noticing. Some have started drifting toward that circle, drawn not by rebellion, but by stability. It's a subtle shift, but an important one, because that's how change begins, not with press conferences, but with quiet conviction.
Still, not everyone's ready to pick a side. For now, most of the roster is caught in the middle, torn between loyalty to the system and faith in the man who's actually trying to fix it. But cracks have a way of spreading, and once the trust is gone, no amount of "we'll fix it next week" can seal it again. The Browns aren't just losing games anymore. They're losing belief, and belief is everything. Because when a team stops trusting the man at the top, it doesn't matter how good your roster is. The collapse has already begun. Not all leaders walk into a room and demand attention. Some just earn it. One action, one moment, one quiet decision at a time. And that's exactly what's happening with Tommy Reese. While the franchise fights its internal civil war, Reese isn't chasing headlines or trying to make a statement. He's doing what leaders do when everything else falls apart: working. Behind closed doors, he's the one steady voice left. The guy who still believes this team can be saved if someone's willing to stop talking and start teaching. Players describe Reese as calm but sharp, the kind of coach who doesn't sugarcoat, doesn't play favorites, and doesn't waste time. He's not caught up in press narratives or office politics. He's in the film room late, breaking down defensive schemes, texting players midweek reminders about reads and formations, checking in on morale when no one else will. It's the small things that build trust, and right now, he's the only one doing them. Reports claim that even as the official story kept Shedeur Sanders out, Reese refused to let him fall behind. He's been running drills, walking through plays, keeping him ready, not just physically, but mentally. That's what real leadership looks like. Not defiance for drama's sake, but defiance with direction. And players see it. When veterans start nodding toward the offensive coordinator after big moments instead of the head coach, that says everything. When rookies quietly choose to sit next to him in film sessions, when guys start saying things like, "Reese gets it," that's the moment control shifts. Not because someone took it, but because the locker room gave it. What makes Reese stand out isn't just that he's good at his job. It's that he cares about the right things. He doesn't care about headlines. He cares about execution. He doesn't care about perception. He cares about progress. In a season drowning in ego, that humility has become his biggest weapon. And maybe that's why people around the league are starting to talk. Rumors suggest the Browns front office has noticed the shift, that Reese's quiet influence hasn't gone unnoticed. He's not campaigning for a promotion. He doesn't need to. His work is speaking louder than any press conference ever could. It's ironic, really. The man who's not trying to lead might be the only one actually doing it. And while Stefanski tightens his grip, Reese is earning something far more powerful than authority: trust. Because in the NFL, trust isn't given. It's built, brick by brick, rep by rep, moment by moment. And when everything else around you is collapsing, Trust becomes the foundation that holds what's left together. Tommy Reese isn't the loudest man in the room, but right now, he's the one every player's listening to. And the more that truth spreads, the clearer it becomes. This isn't just about a quarterback controversy anymore. It's about who the Browns believe in.
And soon, that belief is going to force a choice. At some point, you have to stop blaming bad luck. You have to stop blaming injuries, tough schedules, and locker room noise. Because none of that explains what's really happening in Cleveland. The real problem isn't the players. It's not even the losing. It's leadership, or more specifically, the failure of it. Leadership isn't about holding a title. It's about owning the truth, even when it hurts. And right now, that's the one thing Kevin Stefanski seems unwilling to do. Every week, the press conferences sound the same. Vague optimism, recycled excuses, and a refusal to acknowledge the obvious. The offense is flat. The locker room's fractured. The trust is gone. But instead of facing that reality, he keeps doubling down on a system that no one believes in anymore. Reports from inside the team describe a culture that's become rigid, defensive, and closed off. Questions about strategy or personnel are treated like attacks. Constructive criticism gets brushed aside. Players feel unheard. Assistants feel micromanaged. What used to be collaboration has turned into quiet compliance. And when leadership stops listening, the entire organization stops growing. That's what's happening here. This isn't about one bad call or one bad game. It's about a pattern, a refusal to adapt, a refusal to admit when something isn't working. The decision to stick with Dylan Gabriel isn't loyalty, it's pride. And pride in the NFL is poison. It doesn't inspire confidence, it kills it. The numbers don't lie. The offense is stagnant, the rhythm's off. The chemistry between the quarterback and receivers is not existent. And every week that passes, the belief that we'll fix it fades a little more. You can see it in the way players move, the hesitation, the frustration, the disconnect. That's not a team playing football. That's a team surviving dysfunction. But here's the dangerous part. When the head coach loses credibility, it doesn't just affect the locker room. It infects the entire building. From the front office to the sidelines, everyone starts making decisions out of fear instead of purpose. No one wants to be blamed. No one wants to speak up. So the truth gets buried under layers of damage control. And in Cleveland, that's exactly what's happening. A fake injury narrative isn't just a bad PR move, it's a symptom. It's what happens when leaders care more about protecting their image than protecting their players. It's what happens when honesty is replaced with spin. Tommy Reese, on the other hand, represents the opposite. He's not chasing optics. He's not playing politics. He's doing the one thing this team has been missing, leading with accountability. That's why players trust him. That's why the whispers about a potential coaching shift are getting louder. Because at the end of the day, leadership failure doesn't just show up in the standings. It shows up in the silence. It shows up in the way players stop fighting for each other. It shows up in the way your locker room feels after a loss. Not angry, but numb. And once a team reaches that point, you can't fix it with slogans or speeches. You fix it with truth. You fix it with change. The Browns have a choice to make. Keep protecting a man who's protecting himself, or rebuild around the ones who are still protecting the team. But every day they wait, that window gets smaller. And in the NFL, once belief is gone, it doesn't come back. Every story reaches a moment where pretending isn't an option anymore. The excuses run out, the cracks widen, and the truth finally forces its way to the surface. For the Cleveland Browns, that moment has arrived. The whispers inside the building aren't whispers anymore. They're conversations. Assistants are questioning decisions in meetings. Players are exchanging looks on the sidelines when the offense sputters again.
Even some front office members, according to reports, have begun to quietly discuss contingency plans. No one's saying it outright, but everyone knows what it means. The Stefanski era is on life support. And that's the irony, the thing that makes this so fascinating and tragic at the same time. The Browns have the talent. The defense is elite. The weapons are there. The quarterback they should be playing is healthy and hungry. Everything they need to succeed is sitting right in front of them. But the only thing holding them back is the one person too proud to admit he's wrong. Shedeur Sanders has become more than just a benched quarterback. He's become a symbol, a reminder of everything this organization could be if it stopped clinging to ego and started embracing truth. Players see how he handles himself, quiet, professional, unbothered by the noise. No drama, no outbursts, no cryptic posts online, just work. That silence speaks louder than any statement could. It says, "I'm ready when you are." Meanwhile, Tommy Rees keeps doing what he's always done, preparing, guiding, leading from the shadows. There's no rebellion in his tone, no anger in his actions, just quiet defiance wrapped in professionalism. He's not trying to overthrow anyone. He's just doing the job the right way. But when you do the right thing long enough in a place built on denial, people start to notice, and they start to choose sides. And that's where things get dangerous. Because right now, the Browns are a team split in two. Half of them still clinging to a coach whose message has gone stale. The other half quietly aligning behind the man who's already taken responsibility without being asked. It's no longer a question of if change is coming, it's when. You can sense it in the air. Something's about to give. Players are frustrated, fans are furious, and the organization is running out of places to hide. Every press conference feels like damage control. Every post-game moment feels heavier than the last. This isn't just a rough patch, it's a reckoning. The Browns have reached the fork in the road that every struggling franchise eventually faces. One path leads deeper into denial, more excuses, and another wasted year. The other demands honesty, humility, and a hard reset, the kind that stings before it heals. And somewhere inside that building, someone is going to have to make a call. A real one this time. Not for optics, not for comfort, but for the future. Because this isn't just about saving a season anymore, it's about saving a culture. And the next decision the Browns make will decide whether this story ends in redemption or ruins. The Cleveland Browns are standing on the edge of a cliff. One wrong move, and the whole thing comes crashing down. You can feel it in every practice, every press conference, every hollow promise that things will turn around. But deep down, everyone in that building knows the truth. The Browns aren't just losing games, they're losing themselves.
For months, the cracks were easy to ignore. You could blame the schedule, the injuries, the growing pains of a young offense. But now, the excuses sound empty. The fans aren't buying it. The players definitely aren't buying it. And every day that passes without change makes it harder to fix what's left. The trust is gone. And once trust dies, culture follows. That's the unspoken reality no one in the front office wants to say out loud. Leadership has fractured. The locker room split. The head coach is fighting ghosts of his own making, while his coordinator quietly holds the last thread of belief together. And that thread? It's starting to fray. Rumors across the league suggest the Browns front office is finally feeling the pressure, that ownership is watching, listening, calculating. They see the body language, they hear the whispers, and they know if they don't act soon, they'll lose more than a season. They'll lose the locker room for good. The irony is almost poetic. Kevin Stefanski, a coach once praised for his calm and control, now finds both slipping away faster than he can contain them.
His silence used to mean confidence. Now, it feels like fear. Fear of admitting he was wrong, fear of losing the narrative, fear of watching someone like Tommy Reese, younger, hungrier, more connected, become everything he's not. And Reese, he's not chasing power. He's just doing the work, the kind of work that players respect and fans eventually recognize. He's leading by example, not title. He's giving Shedeur Sanders the reps, the preparation, and the belief that everyone else took away. Quietly, without fanfare, he's building the future that leadership's been too blind to see. The players feel it. The fans sense it. The tide's turning. One conversation, one practice, one moment at a time. And when a team starts believing in a new voice, even before the organization admits it, change isn't a possibility anymore. It's a countdown. So here's the truth. The Browns' future isn't in the hands of one head coach anymore. It's in the hands of those who still care enough to fight for it. The ones who show up early, who keep each other accountable, who haven't given up on what this team could be. Because if the Browns have any chance left, it's going to come from the people doing the work, not the ones hiding behind excuses. It's going to come from honesty, not spin, from action, not damage control. The next few weeks will decide everything, whether this franchise resets and rebuilds from truth or collapses under the weight of its own denial. Whether Shedeur Sanders finally steps back onto the field, not just to prove his coach wrong, but to remind everyone what leadership looks like when it's earned, not handed out. Because this isn't just another season. This is a defining moment for the players, for the coaches, for the franchise itself. And the choice they make next will echo far beyond the scoreboard. So the question isn't if change is coming, it's who's brave enough to make it happen. When a football team starts losing, the scoreboard tells one story. But when it starts breaking from the inside, the silence tells another. That's what's happening in Cleveland right now. This isn't just about stats or depth charts or who starts under center. It's about trust and the quiet war that begins when that trust is broken.
Kevin Stefanski may still hold the title, but titles don't hold teams together. Belief does. And that belief, the thing that keeps players fighting long after the odds are gone, is slipping away. Every week it fades a little more, replaced by frustration, confusion, and doubt. And when doubt takes root in a locker room, it doesn't just weaken it, it rots it from the inside out. But even in the chaos, there's a flicker of hope. You can see it in Tommy Reese, in the way he carries himself, in the way players respond to him, in the quiet leadership that doesn't need cameras to be real. He represents what this team used to be: honest, hardworking, and united around something bigger than politics. And Shedeur Sanders, the so-called injured quarterback, stands as the symbol of what's still possible. The patience, the professionalism, the refusal to break under pressure. That's what real leaders do. They stay ready even when the world counts them out. They keep faith when everyone else walks away. If the Browns can find a way to listen, not to the noise, not to the media, but to the truth echoing through their own walls, they can still turn this around. But it has to start with honesty. It has to start with accountability, because without those two things, no playbook or game plan will ever matter. So maybe this isn't a story about collapse after all. Maybe it's a story about the moment before redemption, the moment when everything breaks just so it can finally be rebuilt the right way. The question is, who's going to be standing when the dust settles? Will it be the coach still clinging to control, or the leader who earned it without asking for it? Will it be another lost season in Cleveland, or the beginning of something that finally feels real? Only time and truth will tell. And as for what happens next, well, in Cleveland, you never know. So if you're following every twist of this story, the lies, the silence, the quiet rise of a new leader, stay tuned. Because this isn't just a quarterback controversy anymore. This is the story of a team at war with itself. And the next move changes everything.